Welcome, friends. Let us take a look at divorce related rules in Krishnamurti Paddhati. Now, when we talk about divorce, then there are a lot many other issues and questions around divorce that would normally and naturally pop up. Now, when someone known to you, your friend or relative, especially when these kind of people approach you and they might be going through a crisis in matrimonial life, then you have to make sure that you are also going to be on a rocky boat, because there are going to be a lot of questions. A person who is going through such a crisis in their married life, and especially someone known to you, then they have so many supplementary questions. And as an astrologer, you should be knowing how to handle those questions and what are the rules in Krishnamurti Paddhati. So let's first look at the some theoretical rules in Krishnamurti Paddhati. So 2711, we know that 2711 is for marriage. Second house is for the kutumb or the family. So when there is an increase in the family member, and that happens through matrimonial bonding. So second house, seventh is the legal house for bonding, and 11th is the house for physical affinity. So 2, 7, 11, that is the house for marriage. And the 12th house from each of these houses, because the 12th house tend to negate a specific house. So from the second house, the first house, from the seventh house, the sixth house, and from the 11th, it is the 10th house. So 1, 6, and 10, 1, 6, and 10, they tend to throw a negative effect on the marriage elements. But 1, 6, 10 alone is not sufficient for creating the divorce. But the 1, 6, 10 has a very special kind of signification in Krishnamurti Paddhati. And the reason for this is because the married life itself is a very popular kind of a topic in Krishnamurti Paddhati. A lot of queries you get and you will be getting, and you already know, are around marriage and the married life. So what, when there are too many significations of 1, 6, and 10 in a horoscope, and this I pointed out in one of my other videos also, Sri KSK has mentioned that this creates some kind of a distant and a indifferent kind of a relationship. That warmth in the relationship is lost, and the reason is that 1, 6, 10 is also the house that indicates the success in the career of a person. So when a person becomes very career oriented, I guess that's what the logical meaning is. That when a person becomes very focused on the career, then they tend to become very dry, very prosaic, and then they lose that kind of a charm in their relationship, because they become very business-like. That is the right word to use. So 1, 6, and 10, it indicates below normal married life. It doesn't indicate that there is a divorce that is going to happen. But 1, 6, 10, it definitely indicates that the married life is devoid of real charm and attraction. Now, there are some other significations that I made a note of when I was preparing this video. Now, when this kind of a difference is there in the matrimonial life, and at the same time there is a signification of 4 and 10, then these differences are tend to be kept hidden, because the fourth house For you is a house of darkness. Fourth is the house of womb. So things get hidden. Similarly, the 10th house is the fourth house for the spouse. So the too many signification of 4 and 10 means that whatever the indifference in the relationship is, that is not known to the public. It's more like a private kind of a thing. So this was something interesting when I was preparing the notes. So I saw this. And then there is another very interesting thing I noticed was that too many significations of 3 and 9. So this also results in the lack of bonding. And the reason for this, and that's very surprising reason, but very logical within the Krishnamurti framework, is that 3 and 9 are also the house of travel, short travel, long travel. So because of too much of traveling, the 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 couple doesn't get time to be at the home and enjoy a normal family life. And then 3 and 9 is also the house of expression, when you try to express something. So too much of signification of 3 and 9 will make a person very argumentative. Now this is something very interesting in Krishnamurti Paddhati. And when you have two persons under the same roof as as a couple, and if they have a difference of opinion and both are fond of arguments, then you can very well figure out that what's going to happen. So I guess 3 and 9, apart from the 3 and 9, we also have to look at the nature of the planet. And because sometime when the both the partners, if they have the focus on the same kind of a subject or a topic, then I guess the bonding is going to be there. But if the 3 and 9 is represented by planets which are inimical to each other, then then this kind of a argument or an argumentative atmosphere might get created in the matrimonial life. Another interesting thing I noticed was that the significator of 7th is also significator of 5, 8, 12. So this makes a person unlucky. You see, there a lot of time there is this blame game happens that uh, she is not lucky or he is not lucky, and you might have seen this kind of a blame game happening in a lot of places. And so this was another interesting thing, that but I think this has to be looked at both the horoscope. So if in a girl's horoscope the significator of 7th becomes the significator of 5, 8, 12 in the other boy's horoscope, right, then that particular person will become unlucky. So I thought of mentioning this particular rule because in the traditional matchmaking, the Ashtakut Milapak, there is one particular element, I think Tara Milan or something, where this luck factor, whether a person is lucky for the other person or not. So that is one of the essential elements in the Ashtakut Milan. But within the Krishnamurti Paddhati, this is a very interesting and a novel kind of approach, that if the significator of 7th is also significator of 5, 8, 12. Obviously, when we have both the horoscopes at the time of at the time of matchmaking that happens before the wedding, this rule could be tested. And then 6, 8, 12, that's the house for the divorce, and the 7th house also gets involved because it indicates the legal side of the divorce. Now, in the 6, 8, 12, I would say 8 and 12 are the main houses that are responsible. But then 6 is also the house of disputes and arguments, and so 6, 8, and 12. These three houses, whenever they appear, so then this kind of a crisis might surface. Now, another thing in Krishnamurti Paddhati is that 6, 8, 12 is a very generic kind or a general kind of indicator that something is not good. You can't possibly put a finger and say that the things are bad on the matrimonial life, because 6, 8, 12 can indicate bad things from the career or from other legal aspects or some dispute or inimical activities or government action, whatever, whatever bad things have to happen in a very sharp way, then the 6, 8, 12 role is there. So especially in the KP birth horoscope, this is one of the challenge that how to identify whether 6, 8, 12 is pointing towards a particular specific aspect of life. So when I take this an example chart after we are done with these points, then we will also look at this particular problem within Krishnamurti framework, that how to relate the bad houses for towards a specific aspect of life. Now, when this whole crisis is coming up in the matrimonial life, then you will also hear about the blame game. That he did not do this, she did not do this. A lot of these things. You have to be a witness to these kind of suggestions that come from the parties. So now, if the KP rule is if 12 is stronger, that means the signification of 12 is stronger, then you will sever the relationship. Means who is going to take the initiative to say that I can't live with you. So if the significator of 12 is stronger, then you will say. But if the 6 is stronger, then the other person decides to break. Now 6 and 12 both are responsible for the breakup or for the divorce, but you know how to figure out the strength in the Krishnamurti Paddhati. The a planet in the star lot is the strongest, and that's the number one strength. And then number two is the planet's position. So if you have to ever kind of decide that whether the 12th is stronger or the 6th is stronger, then you can apply the usual Krishnamurti rules. But this is not a guarantee about whose fault it is. Because if let's say if I decide to, or a person decides to call off the marriage, and if you're looking at that person's horoscope and you find that the 12th house is stronger, it doesn't mean that that person is at fault. Maybe because of the nature of the spouse, this person might have decided. So between the 6th and the 12th house, it is more about who is taking the initiative. I don't think it indicates that it is someone's fault. So that you have to keep in mind. And then apart from this, the questions, about the alimony, the spouse's support after the divorce, this is one of the questions that comes up, that will I get the enough money and things like that. And another thing is the midlife crisis. This I will discuss more when we are looking at this example chart. And then the role of Mars, which is usually called as the Mangli or the Mangli. Now the traditional matchmaking, which of course doesn't work at all, and but still the lot of these fear psychosis is created in the name of Mars, that and declaring a horoscope as a Mangli or a Manglik, that rule is so generous that I think 80% of the horoscope can be very easily labeled as Mangli or Manglik. So I don't think Mars has a role to play in the traditional way. But the role of Mars as a planet, Mars is the karak for the all the arguments that get heated up, and then there is even a chance of violence also. So you have to look at the Mars role from that particular point of view, and not from the traditional like Mangli or Manglik point of view. And here, I would like you to find this particular video on the YouTube, and this is a very nice video I came across. If you type this research in astrology by Dr. Arun Bansal, he is the owner of Future Point. I think you might have heard about the Future Point. It's a very popular astrology related company in India, and Arun is the founder. And so this particular video, though this is not on the Krishnamurti Paddhati, but his team did a research on more than 2000 horoscopes just on the Mangli topic alone. And by comparing these horoscopes, yeah, of the couples where one is Mangli, other is not, or both are Mangli, or the boy is Mangli, girl is not, these kind of a combination. And then they realize that nothing works. There is not something that any specific rule that you can make out of the traditional uh, Manglik concept. So this is a very good video. You should watch it, and I should give a special shout out to Arun for his efforts. This is a really very nice effort, collecting 2000 horoscopes and then gathering statistical data. So this is how you make an informed decision in astrology, by collecting horoscopes and then running your research and then making your inference. So do watch this video from Arun. This is a very nice video. So that was about the role of Mars. Now, if you then of course this question of the the compromise and the second marriage, that also comes up, and that I will discuss in the context of this the practical horoscope that we will take. And obviously then the post divorce period, how the life is going to be, and this question is mostly related to the 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 career and the prospects of, and especially of the female or the woman. And but of course both the parties, they suffer. So these are some of the things that come up around this divorce when you're looking at a horoscope and when you are interacting with a person that might have these questions. Now, one of the things that I would also like to point out is that many of these rules, these are all theoretical rules. So don't get carried away by people who say that by just committing these numbers to the memory, you can look into a birth horoscope and figure out all these things. This is a very this is a very wrong kind of a peddling, I would say. And a lot of online videos I see that they tend to emphasize, oh, you just have to mug these numbers in Krishnamurti Paddhati, and then you will be able to make a very good analysis. See, this might be true for the Krishnamurti horary, but in the birth horoscope, it is not possible, and it has its own challenges, which we will see in this practical horoscope also. So now, having discussed all these things, let's look at the that particular horoscope in question. Now, this is the horoscope of one of my friends, and for the reason of privacy, I'm not going to reveal the data. And but when she approached me and sent me her birth particulars, so and at that time I noticed that she has started, this the Saturn period had ended in in July 2022, and the Mercury period had started. So, and normally when a person, and it's not that some she is not a kind of a friend who would approach me now and then. It's like once in a while. So so at that time I knew that something might be bothering her, and so when she sent me that horoscope and I looked at this thing and I looked at the Mercury. Now here you see that it doesn't indicate the 12th house, right? Mercury is not indicating the 12th house. It only indicates the 6th house along with the 8th house. So this is one of the things that I was pointing out to you, that just based on the numbers alone, especially in the Krishnamurti birth horoscope, you can't possibly make a very informed kind of assessment. You have to rely on your client for some input. So when I looked at her horoscope, one thing I realized was that the signification of the eighth house was appearing at all these three columns. You see that the eighth house is there in the column 1 and the star lord level also, and at the sub lord level. And then, of course, the eighth and sixth combination is not good. But apart from that, other combinations are good, like 6 and 11 is good, 8, 11 is good, right? But 8 and 6 is definitely bad. And 8, 8, 8, all these things appearing as all these three columns. So this particular combination, um, I was drawn to this particular combination, and I thought that something really bad might be bothering her because of this 888 appearing in all the three columns. See, I've known this person for quite some time, and I never suspected that they might be going through some crisis in the matrimonial life. So, so as a casual remark, I did point it out to her that the the mercury is not good from some unknown stuff, because health wise, if you look, then the 1 8 and 6, this combination does create some health issues, but at the same time you can see the 11th house is quite strong at the star level and the sub level. So 11th house takes care of the uh, any bad thing related to health. So but the 8 8 8 combination, that is what is significant for the mercury thing. And so when I pointed this to her, and I said that the whole of the mercury period has this combination, because mercury mahadasha will be starting or has started, and since the mahadasha lord itself indicates the 8 8 8 combination, so there is something that's going to be there throughout the mercury period. And at that time, then she started revealing a little bit more. And then finally, of course, then we got into some kind of a dialogue. And that is how I realized that they were going through a severe matrimonial crisis. And actually, she approached me at a time when everything was going on the rocks. And they had even approached a lawyer to get into all those legalities of the divorce. So obviously, the all those questions that we discussed, that will this divorce happen, will this separation happen, whether will I will get the money to support myself or not, what will happen to my kids, those kind of a thing. So let's look at all these questions step by step. So the first thing is that the unless and until I heard from her, I was not able to really identify that this particular 888 combination is actually creating this crisis in the matrimonial life. So this is one very important thing. If you are a Krishnamurti enthusiast, it doesn't matter how senior you are, but one of the things that is lacking in Krishnamurti Paddhati, and where we as a Krishnamurti community or enthusiasts must figure it out, that how to identify this particular bad combination indicating the crisis in the matrimonial life. But it does clearly indicate that a person will go through uh, some really rough phase. So that's one of the beauty of the Krishnamurti Paddhati. By just looking at the column 1, 2, 3, you can see that a person is going through some crisis during the Mercury period. Second is that I looked at her age, and then based on that also, I could make a little bit of guess that this is the age when the couple go through midlife crisis. The relationship becomes old and they outgrow it, and at that time all the small differences of opinion, they tend uh, to blow out of proportion. And for that, then you have to look at the fundamental nature of a person. So then I looked at her lagna chart. In a couple of videos I pointed out that the don't waste your time in looking at the the sublord of the ascendant for assessing the character sketch of a person. It doesn't work in the birth horoscope. In the birth horoscope, you have to look at the Lagna chart, not at the bhav, or the Kaspa chart. You have to look at the Lagna chart. You have to look at the Lagnesh, and then you have to look at the position of the moon. And this is how then you have to blend everything. So I realized that the Gemini and the Libra, these are both are airy signs, right? So, and the people who are ruled by airy signs, sometimes they have, I would say, uh, the the balance of mind is not at rest, and maybe because of the too much of air element. And additionally, I noticed that the ascendant lord is in the eighth house. Now, when I saw this, that this is a Mercury ruled ascendant, Gemini, and the ascendant lord is in the eighth house with Sun, then I recall that there are a lot of other horoscope where the ascendant was Mercury ruled, which is Gemini or the Virgo, and the ascendant lord was in the eighth house, and it was either with Sun or the Mars. These are all hot planets, and since the Mercury, it also represents the speech. So in the other horoscope, I had noticed that the the ability of that person to create some kind of a argument was more exposed, or rather more strong, compared to the other ascendant. And I think this is because the Mercury represents the the speech in the Jyotish chart, in the Jyotish, and the being the ascendant lord and being with the sun, it kind of heats up a person's ability to not be very nice when it comes to communicating with the other person. So this is one of the things that I had noticed in lot many other charts, especially the Gemini and Virgo. If it is the ascendant lord is in the eighth house, and especially with these planets, Sun and Mars. Sun and Mars, I have noticed. I'm not sure about Saturn and Rahu, because I don't have that kind of a data. So based on that, I could make it out that the age plus the midlife crisis plus the airy sign, influence of the airy sign, and plus the Mercury in the eighth with Sun. So I could make it out that seems like there is some kind of a verbal argument that has happened in a way that it has reached a boiling point. And then I looked at the Mercury and realized that Mercury is the ascendant lord. So it is in the star lord of Mars and also sublord of Mars. See, this is the Mangli concept that you have to interpret in a more contemporary and within the Krishnamurti framework. So the domestic violence, I ruled out the domestic violence, but I thought that this should have created some kind of a drama, uh, uh, and that is what has happened. And in fact, the whole argument, with no physical violence, but it reached such a tempo that at one point or at a couple of points, even the law enforcement authorities had to be called in. So, so then this whole picture started emerging, that the the whole matrimonial crisis, how this is going to unfold. Then I, like we mentioned, that the 11th house, the 11th house and the 8th house, this is a combination that clearly indicate that someone is going to get money through alimony or spousal support, or through legacy, or through insurance. That's what this combination indicates. Eighth house plus the 11th house. That's what this combination indicates. And and since Mercury as a Mahadasha Lord is indicating 8 and 11. So I assured her that when it comes to the getting the spousal support, then she should be comfortable. There shouldn't be any problem. And sixth house is also involved. So sixth house usually indicate that when the people are on the negotiating table, then the whosoever has the sixth house stronger will take the major pie, and that's what happened in this particular negotiation. And so she confirmed teacher yeah that way she was okay, and the negotiation were on her side, and there was not much protest from the other party. And apart from that, there were some issues about the kids, though they are grown up. But you see, a lot of bad blood has been created, and all the parties that are involved, they are going through some traumatic experience. So I told her that so long, the Mercury period is there and the 11th house is there, because the 11th house indicates the fulfillment of desire. So, so then I said that whatever bad blood has been created, then over a period of time that should be taken care of, because the 11th house is there. And apart from that, the compromise question also came up. See, people get into this crisis, matrimonial crisis, and then after some time, during the process, when the all these legality is happening, and then when they start reflecting on it, sometimes they repent, and then they look for some window for compromise. But in this case, you can see that Mercury doesn't allow that thing to be happen, and she is running, the Mercury period. So not very positive, not very conductive. I didn't see any compromise. And when we say compromise, that means that there has to be, seven and nine, five and three, those kind of houses. Three, third house, ninth house, fifth house, seventh house. So these house indicate the compromise in the matrimonial life or even otherwise. So, so I hinted that the compromise was not on the card, and looking into the future, what the life is going to be. So when I looked at the this Mercury Ketu period, this is going to start in 25. So Mercury Ketu is a planet that starts a totally new chapter in a person's life. And whether Ketu appears as a Dasha Lord or as the Antardasha Lord, or even as the star lord of some other planet, the Dasha, a person might be running. Shri KSK has often pointed out that whenever Ketu is active, then it opens a new leaf in a person's life. So I could make it out that from Mercury Ketu, some new leaf, a new chapter of in the life of this person will start, and you will see the Ketu is also not very conductive. It also indicates the 8, 8 and 8 in the all three columns. So I think by the time Mercury Ketu start, this person will come to the terms that now everything is over, and things are already over in a way, but still people have hope. But I think by the back end of Mercury period, and with the beginning of the Mercury Ketu period, this whole reality will start settling on her mind. So this is the story of this whole crisis. Now, another thing that I wanted to point out was that if you take an overall look at this horoscope, then you find that this 6 and 12 that appears uh, in the sublord level here, and at the sublord level of the sun, and then the moon, and then the Mars. Continuously it appears, right? 612, 612, 612, and 612. So what does this indicate? This indicates that there is some build up that is happening towards the separation. And especially during the certain period itself, in the certain period, see, what would have happened is that, all these dashas, starting with Saturn and Venus, right? Saturn, Venus, and then Saturn, Sun, Saturn, Moon, because all this period, the sublord is indicating 6 and 12, right? So this indicates that all these Antardasha period within the Saturn might have created this feeling of bitterness towards each other. Of course, the divorce didn't happen during the Saturn period, because we can see that the Saturn at the sublord level is indicating 2 and 7. So obviously the any kind of a legal separation is ruled out. But the idea of pointing this out was that in Krishnamurti Paddhati, the rule for when Professor KSK says that if majority of the planets are indicating whatever XYZ, then the strength of an event gets more pronounced. For example, if majority of the planets are indicating 2, 6, and 10, then a person is usually comfortable in life. So this is what is meant by uh, this particular thing. The because in each of the antardasha, that particular combination will start playing out itself and start giving that result. So in Saturn Venus, Saturn Sun, Saturn Moon, and Saturn Mars also continuously you see the 612, 612, 6 there. So that is what that this is how this whole story might be building up in the Saturn period, and then in the Mercury period, where Mercury is the significator of 888 in all three columns, this crisis has unfolded. So that is all in this video, and I hope you gathered some new insight about some of the challenges in the Krishnamurti Paddhati, and and this is also an opportunity for all KP enthusiasts to delve more deep into it and find some more hidden rules and some more practical results, and then share with the other KP enthusiasts. So that's all in this video, and I hope you enjoyed watching it. Thanks.